I don't know if you have heard this story, but some people were applauding rapper and business mogul and billionaire Jay-Z because he announced that he was going to issue $300 million worth of school vouchers to students and at public schools. Some people, except for me, because I worked in the education system and I knew that that is actually not good news. And then I looked a little further, and apparently other people did too, because this is a scam. So we called this segment the Jay-Z voucher scam. Let's get into this, and I'm going to explain to you why this is not a good idea when it comes to the public school system and those students that are removed from the public school system and they are sent to those private schools. But first, let's get into the Jay-Z grift. Jay-Z gets dragged online and pushing Jeff Yass backed private school plan. Let's get into this here. Rapper Jay-Z is being dragged online after it was reported his Roc Nation media company will throw its weight behind a conservative effort to promote attendance at Philadelphia private schools rather than public ones. Late last week, the mogul, aka Sean Carter, received a lot of favorable press that portrayed Roc Nation support as a boon for underprivileged kids. And so this is what they'll do. They'll say that Jay-Z started this initiative where he's going to donate $300 million in scholarships to kids at public schools so they can use that as a voucher and attend a private school. Now, guys, let's use our brains. Why not just use that money to fix up the public school? Right? Because that's not what he really wants to do. You got to remember, Jay-Z is a billionaire. On Friday, the organization announced plans for an educational campaign for Philadelphia that will secure about $300 million in scholarships for kids from grades K through 12 from low-income households so they can attend one of the city's array of private schools. Notice this, one of the city's array of private schools. So it's not like this is going to be the top tier private schools. We'll get into that in a second, and I'll explain to you how this failed in other states. The organization will host a series of events across the region from June 10th to June 21st, aiming to educate the public and share information about Pennsylvania Award for Student Success, also known as Senate Bill 757. A spokesperson from Roc Nation said in a news release that its goal is to empower the youth and families with the knowledge to pursue their scholastic dreams, make their voices heard, and become leaders of tomorrow. Empower has just become this word that people just kind of throw around lately. I'm implementing these vouchers so that these kids can be empowered. Empowered to do what? Why can't I be empowered in my neighborhood? Why can't I be empowered at the public school that I attend? Why can't you use those resources to fix those public schools instead? But a closer look at the details paints a more complicated and controversial picture. As some on social media have noted, the program supported by Roc Nation is not so much securing scholarships as funneling public funds to Pennsylvania's private and charter schools. And you see this over and over again. When people are pulling this kind of money, they say we're giving you vouchers. This is money that is being taken away from the public school system, and it is going to the private schools and to the charter schools. This is not okay. I don't agree with this. This is why I don't support the charter schools. I don't support the private schools, because not everyone can afford to remove their kid from the public school and send them to the private school. Not every kid at those private schools is going to get that voucher to attend the private school. And not every kid is going to be able to test into some of these charter schools. So what happens to those kids that are left at the public schools? Those schools now become even more under-resourced than they were before. Goes on to say here, the effort is being led by conservative lawmakers and activists in the state, including billionaire businessman and Trump backer Jeff Yass. Yass, who from Pennsylvania, has made an anti-public school agenda his number one issue, according to CNBC. The billionaire TikTok investor is a major funder of groups like Conservative Commonwealth Foundation that have advocated for the PASS program, which would fund vouchers to allow students from underprivileged communities to attend charter and private schools. Do you see what's happening, guys? You see what's happening to public education in this country? Again, the money is being taken away from the public schools and it is going to the private and the charter schools. Now, peep this, fam. Similar voucher plans like Arizona's voucher program have faced backlash for failing in their promises to cut costs and to benefit underprivileged students. We're going to take a look at Arizona right now, and then we're going to pop back to the Jay-Z article. Now, this was announced 10 months ago. Arizona to offer private school vouchers to all students. Peep this, fam. So again, this failed. Listen.
If parents in Arizona aren't happy with the public school system, the new state chief of schools says the power is now in their hands. Take a listen.
Hi, I'm Tom Horn, Arizona Schools Chief. My job is to encourage excellence in public schools, and Arizona does have excellent public schools. But if your school is not meeting your child's needs, Arizona has adopted empowerment scholarship accounts. The accounts help parents pay for any school of their choice.
Everybody should have a fair chance at education.
It has afforded us the opportunity to be able to educate in the way that we see fit as parents.
Yeah, so this has been a talker. The Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA program rollout, is part of a new effort approved by the state legislature to offer private school vouchers to all students, averaging out to be about $7,200 per child. Now, Arizona has the largest share of charter school students in the country. Tom Horn oversees 1.1 million students as Arizona's chief of schools. He joins us now to discuss further the pros, the cons of this voucher program. Good morning, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's great to be with you. I think it's only pros.
It's only pro. Okay, yeah, we'll get into all of them then. I do find it interesting. I'd like to start off with the fact that your title is Superintendent of Public Instruction, yet you're pitching this as, hey, you can pick whatever private school you want your kids to go to. The state of Arizona will help pay for it if you're not happy with your public choices. Right. Why? Is this in response to all the social issues we've seen playing out in the classroom?
Well, I think that, rich people have always had a choice, and we believe that people at all income levels should also have a choice what provides the best education for their children. And I've taken the position this is good for the public schools because competition is always good for everybody. That's why the United States is rich and the Soviet Union was poor, because we have competition that causes people to work hard. And the Soviet Union had a government monopoly. And as they used to say in Poland, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. So when the public schools have competition, I think that the academics go up, they work harder. They don't want to lose students to the private schools, and that means they work harder to produce good academic results.
That is false. So let me explain to you what happens here, because this guy is so full of it. When you lose students from the public school, let's just have one school in particular. When you lose students from that school, now all of a sudden you have a decrease of the number of enrolled students. So when it is time to do the budget, which sector do you think the city is going to pull money from? Usually the education system gets hit. And now that you have a decrease of enrolled students because they all got those vouchers to go to the private school, well, that means less funding for the public school. So to his point where he said they view it as competition, and so it empowers them, it makes them want to perform better in a competitive education. Of course, complete capitalist, right? How are you able to compete and do better when the resources are less than what they were before? As the number of students decrease, the resources will decrease. Remember, public schools are funded by property taxes as well. But when these cities, this is why you need to know who your city councilors are. When these cities create these budgets, Where do you think they pull from first? It's usually education. So he's looking at this from a capitalist perspective. He thinks this is a good thing. It's going to force those kids at the private school to do better. But according to this, and I've seen it in other articles as well, similar voucher plans like Arizona's voucher program have faced backlash for failing in their promises to cut costs and to benefit underprivileged students. So that program did not work. It goes on to say here, this is Nicole Hannah-Jones, although I have issue with Nicole Hannah-Jones too, because some of the stuff she say be all over the place too. But she's right about this. It is a lie that these programs do not take from public school funding. Fewer kids in the classroom means fewer dollars to the school. You guys see what I was telling you? This is a windfall to the city's private schools at the expense of the public ones that most kids attended. This ain't it. This ain't it. This is coming from AFT Pennsylvania. And for good measure, here's a still of SC and Jeffrey Yass, Pennsylvania's richest man, potential Trump Treasury Secretary, and the force behind the voucher push. So everybody see this? There's Jay-Z right there. You guys see it? Right? And this was the announcement that a lot of people saw. Jay-Z's Rock Nation will spearhead an educational campaign in Philadelphia. $300 million in scholarships to attend the private schools. And a lot of people saw this that apparently I'd noticed did not work in the education system, and they thought this was a good thing. Now I want to show you something else, because this is something I think some people don't want to talk about as well. Let me tell you how those school vouchers actually hurt academic performance. Check this out. School vouchers hurting students' academic performance, several studies show. Now, this article was written in February 19th, 2024. So I just want to touch on one part here in this article where they mention other states that have failed. Indiana. Nearly every Indiana student is eligible for vouchers, and Hoosier taxpayers are spending $1.136 billion in this budget cycle to pay private school tuition. So I hope everybody heard that, because yes, that money does go to, that's tax dollars that are going towards those private schools. So that's Indiana. That's one example that they gave. Unfortunately for voucher recipients and those who claim that private schools are somehow better than public schools, researchers at Notre Dame studied Indiana's costly voucher program and determined that students using vouchers were not keeping up academically with public school students. Say it again for the people in the back. The kids that were using the vouchers at the private schools were not keeping up academically with the public school students. Are those private schools actually that much better? Which private schools are they sending those kids to, the ones that have the vouchers? Private schools can say no to students. You think those elite top performing private schools are going to let all those kids from the public schools come in because they got that voucher? Hells no. But Jay-Z doesn't want to tell people that. It goes on to say here, according to researchers, Indiana voucher students experience an achievement loss in mathematics during the first year of attending a private school compared with the students who remained in the public school. In other words, hundreds of millions of Indiana tax dollars are annually thrown at private schools that duplicate the mission of the public school taxpayers already support. But the duplicate schools aren't as effective as the well-established public schools. I had to tell people about this. It is a hot mess, right? Here's another one. Time Magazine tried to warn people about this as well. How school voucher programs hurt students. Now, this article was written April 19th of last year. So peep this. New proposals for these programs, collectively called school vouchers, have appeared in more than a dozen states and passed as major priorities for Republican governors like Kim Reynolds in Iowa, Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas since 2021. Arizona, Florida, Utah, and West Virginia have also created or expanded voucher plans. Meanwhile, a handful of states like Indiana, Louisiana, Ohio, and Wisconsin have run voucher programs for years. But do school vouchers actually work? Peep this. As an analyst who has studied these and other forms of school choice, for nearly 2 decades, I'm in a good position to give an answer. And based on data from existing voucher programs, the answer is almost unambiguously negative. Okay, so I want to jump forward to here because they highlight Arizona as well. In Arizona, more than 75% of initial voucher applicants had never been in a public school, either because they were new kindergartners or already in private school before getting a voucher. That's a problem, because many voucher advocates market these plans as ways to improve educational opportunities for public children. What about the students who do leave the public schools? Some plans, like the currently proposed bill in Texas, restrict eligibility to students in public school for at least 1 year. But for the children who do transfer using a voucher, the academic results in the recent scaled up statewide programs are catastrophic. Although small pilot phase programs showed some promise 2 decades ago, new evaluations of vouchers in DC, Indiana, Louisiana, and Ohio show some of the largest test score drops ever seen in research record, between negative 0.15 and negative 0.50 standard deviations of learning loss. The students who received the vouchers in those particular areas to attend the private schools, their academic scores actually decreased when they went to the private schools. One more piece here. Put this here. And these harmful voucher impacts from existing statewide vouchers lasted for years with little else on balance to show for it. What explains the extraordinarily large voucher-induced declines? Aren't private schools supposed to be elite educational opportunities? When it comes to private schools accepting voucher payments, the answer is clearly no. That's because elite private schools with strong academics and large endowments often decline to participate in voucher plans. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back chilling with their fam. Elite private schools with strong academics and large endowments often decline to participate in voucher plans. That's why we're calling this a scam, because that's what Jay-Z is running around here. There's one more piece. Here's another problem. For most students, using a voucher is a temporary choice to begin with. In states that have reported data on the question, Indiana, Louisiana, and Wisconsin, roughly 20% of students leave voucher programs each year, either because they give up the payment or because schools push them out. In Florida, where vouchers just expanded, that number is even higher, around 30% per year in pre-expansion data. And then there's the question about students that are disabled. How are they affected by these vouchers? Check this out. Make it a little bit bigger. School vouchers divert scarce public education funds to private schools, which are not required to comply with federal protections for students with disabilities or report and track spending and student performance. You hear this? For these reasons, Raise Your Hand Texas supports keeping education tax dollars in public schools and investing in quality public school choice and innovative programs. Does everybody see this? This part right here for people who are disabled. Vouchers reduce equitable access to educational opportunities. They weaken rights for students with disabilities and expose taxpayers to fraud. What my comrade JB, sorry, JB. What Jay-Z is doing, this is a scam. This is a scam. It goes on to say again, voucher programs in other states have a long history of expanding well beyond their intended scope, even surpassing spending limits set by their legislation, resulting in increased state spending on programs that benefit private schools and businesses. Vouchers rarely cover the full cost of private school tuition, leaving families targeted by these programs to pay the difference, which could be thousands of dollars. Research shows vouchers do not improve student achievement. Research shows vouchers do not improve student achievement. It's a scam. But what was upsetting to me is that Jay-Z was being dragged on the internet, but not for the reason that he should be. People were dragging him because this effort that he's supporting, it's in a line with conservative Trump supporter. That's why a lot of people were dragging him. Most people weren't dragging him for the fact that this is a scam, that this money actually is going to hurt public schools. That those kids that get those vouchers to go to the private schools, academically, they're not doing too well. Now, this young woman here, she's going to tell you what that money could have done for the public schools. Listen to this.
So your favorite black capitalist has got something in his bag for public schools. So it says Jay-Z's Rock Nation will spearhead an educational campaign. Now, this is a lobbying effort. Be aware of that. This is going to be in Philadelphia that helps K through 12 from low-end students from K-12 in low-income households secure about $300 million in scholarships to attend the city's private schools, not the public schools. He's going to cherry pick a couple of special kids and put them into private schools with basically vouchers. I've already talked about how vouchers don't really help communities. But let's see what we could spend that $300 million on. So $300 million could buy an extra social worker at every school, a dozen rotating psychologists to provide therapy on site. It is very hard for people to find good child psychologists and psychiatrists. And a lot of kids in low-income households are dealing with a lot of trauma. And when you have trauma, you have a hard time focusing in school. So if we have psychologists, we can take care of that. $3,000 stipends for teachers to provide after-school clubs. Let them choose what kind of clubs they provide. Keeps kids off the streets, gives teachers an incentive to do something fun with the kids. Win-win situation. A certified school librarian at every school. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania does not have the same kind of stipulations that other states do that make sure that there's a certified school librarian at every school, which has been shown to drastically increase literacy rates. So let's give everyone a school librarian and $10,000 to buy books to get some new books in circulation at every school. $25,000 per school for gym updates. A lot of times the gyms are run down. They don't have good equipment. These are things that affect the kids' ability to function in class because they don't have good recreation. They don't have good PE. So let's reduce that issue by giving them a little bit of money to upgrade things. $10 million for after-school tutoring. Got to pay teachers to stay a little bit later. You'll have the chance to meet with kids that you actually teach and help them get ahead or to catch up some of those things they need to catch up because they're in need. $100 million for pre-K for 3 years. Those benefits will roll up for the next generation. You will see a difference as those pre-K kids get into school because a lot of kids who are in low-income households have a word gap. Pre-K takes care of that. The rest
Yep.
reduce class sizes. It's not sexy, but it works.
So the point that she's making here, guys, is these are all the things that could have been done for the public schools with $300 million. Why not just fix the public schools? It's the question I continue to ask. Maybe someday somebody will tell me. Someday. It's ridiculous. I've said this before. Again, vouchers leave kids behind. Sounds silly when you say it, but Jay-Z need to know this. Vouchers leave kids behind. Not everyone gets a voucher. Somebody's left behind. And the vouchers are usually temporary. So you may be at that private school for 1 year and then you may end up right back where you were the year before that. Kids need stability. Let's go to some of the comments here. It's a scam. It is a scam. Nina says, why can't kids grow food on school property, save money on shitty school lunch? I think you mean lunch. I don't know. A lot of the rules have changed at the schools in reference to like food. Like when I was a kid, like we could bring in food, right? And now it's like, because there's so many different types of food allergies and things like that. Like, it's like some schools won't let you bring in food unless it's for everyone in the class. And then there's so many different rules now. It's just so different. Public Domain says picking winners is what our capitalist rigged market gets us. FM says the charter school grift. There you go. Donna D, Miss Sabrina, the money is not being donated by Sean Carter. That press release is lying. He is just supporting this initiative. Interesting, Donna. Interesting. JB, my comrade, says if the public schools aren't doing better, improve the public schools so all students will do better. Why limit which kids can do better? Individualism doesn't work when fixing systemic problems. I hear you. Simone says, my son had a voucher in Wisconsin in 2001. He used it to attend a private prep school. It was an interesting experience. I'll have to hear about that sometime, Simone. Thank you, Sparky. It's actually rare that a private school can compete academically with public schools. Vouchers just cause glorified private K through 12 daycare centers to pop up and grift. MB said, LeBron school is failing also. Really? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I have to check that. And Roger said, it's a scam like opportunity zones. Well said. Well said.